Skip Junis was a businessman in LA at LAX on the night of June 12, 1994. He was picking up his wife. A limousine pulls up to the airport. O.J. Simpson gets out with a travel bag. He goes to the trash can and unloads some items. Was it the murder weapon? Was it bloody clothes? Welcome to 1 Degree of Scandalous. I'm your host, Tom Zenner, along with Kato. And we're here with that man, Skip Junis, joining us just outside his home in Seattle. And Skip, let's go back to that night. You were picking up your wife. Can you reset the scene for us, why you were there and exactly what you were doing?
Sure. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. My wife, who I've been together with now for 54 years, she worked at American Airlines and worked at the ticket counter. And she also handled all the special VIPs that checked in. So had her shift gone a little bit longer, she would have been handling OJ that night. But she was getting off at the time, and I was out front waiting to pick her up because I didn't like her going to the car park late at night by herself.
So you're sitting, you're there, and then did you get a good look at the limousine pulling up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the limousine was probably 30 feet in front of me, 25 feet in front of me.
Amazing. And then I know this is almost exactly 30 years ago, but just take us back. Was it odd? Did you recognize O.J. Simpson right away?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. In fact, many people, when they ask questions to me, they go, "Oh my God, did you go crazy seeing a celebrity?" My job, I was around celebrities a lot. And I was a baseball player at UCLA, and he was a football player at SC. There's not a lot of love between UCLA and SC. So, I knew who he was. I'd seen him before. Yeah.
Quickly, Skip, you see him, you're 25 feet, 30 feet away. You know it's O.J. Simpson, and you're in your car. You know from your view it's him. You see him go to a garbage can on the outside, I suppose, where baggage is. A porter might be out there. Is that, in your mind, do you even think anything? Why is he throwing stuff out? Or you're just saying, okay, he's throwing garbage out of this bag?
Well, at the scene where the limo and where I were parked, right there is the podium for the sky caps. Yeah. So when I first saw him get out of the limo, they were unloading his Louis Vuitton luggage out of the trunk, but he was carrying the best way I can describe it is a cheap gym bag. And I recognized that kind of bag because I used to have one when I was an athlete, carrying shoes and clothes and stuff like that to a game or something.
Sure.
And I watched him walk over. He wouldn't let the sky cap or the limo driver touch the bag. They both offered, and he said, "No, I've got it." He held on to it. And while they were messing with the luggage, he went over to the trash can, which is a tall trash can with a lid on it, with a hole where you stuff trash into it. And he put this bag on top of the trash can. And then what was really peculiar is that he didn't unzip it all the way. He only zipped it just part way at the bottom, just enough to get his hand inside and pull stuff out, and then immediately put it in the trash can. And he had positioned himself so he was between the sky cap and the limo driver and the trash can. So they really couldn't see what he was doing. I was at a more of an advantageous angle to watch with this. And, it wasn't like I was watching every movie made, but watching this, it caught my eye because it was very, very peculiar behavior.
Right. This is an incredible story, everybody. This is going to be one heck of an episode. By the way, obviously the person who drove the limousine to the airport with OJ is Alan Park. Alan Park will be on the show next week. Make a note. Alan Park, the limo driver, joining us in studio next week on the episode. Skip, were you immediately suspicious? Was this weird, bizarre, suspicious behavior that OJ was showing you?
Well, as I said, my wife worked for the airline. And back in those days, way back when, before frequent flyer miles, we traveled all the time, all over the world. So I would say we were very experienced travelers. working at the airport. I'd been there a lot. I've watched a lot of people observing their behavior. I will tell you, your listeners, your watchers, think about it. Have you ever seen anybody get out of a car at the airport and immediately go to a trash can and start mysteriously taking stuff out of a bag and putting it in the trash can? You cut to OJ and the fact that he's driving in a limo, and from his house to the airport that late at night probably only is like a 20-minute drive. And what would he have had in that bag that he would carry it, not let anybody touch it, and then must kind of sneakily take stuff out and throw it into a trash can ever before going into the airport? I've thought about this for 30 years, and I can't come up with one solid idea of what he could have in that bag other than the stuff that he might have wanted to discard. And that would be obviously potentially the murder weapon and bloody clothes.
Okay, so I'm Tom. I'm going to just go jump the gun a bit, but you can come back to this because it's just I'm on the edge of my seat because Skip, when you heard my testimony and I had said, okay, so the night of the next morning, I should say, a murder's been committed, correct? That Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman had been murdered. So you know this, right? The next day.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it that night, obviously.
Right.
It was a murder, but
you heard
then I heard that his wife had been killed, yes.
Okay, and then now in your mind, you're going, well, I saw him at the airport. He was emptying stuff. So now you're playing detective, right? Because you're thinking to yourself, I better contact somebody. Is that your next step?
Not immediately, because he wasn't considered a suspect immediately.
Right.
It was odd behavior, and I was talking about it to other people and what have you. But later, when it looked like he might be a suspect, I called both the defense and the prosecution to tell them I could tell them exactly, almost to the minute, that he drove up out in front of the airport.
Yeah.
So there was a timeline from the time the murder was committed to him getting on an airplane. I could at least give them a place where he was at an exact time.
And part of my testimony when I was on the stand was I always saw this bag. He would not let me touch it. It was 20 yards away from the limo, and I was closest to go get it. He says, don't, I got it. And I described it more as a college, like an athlete, a college knapsack sort of bag. And it was, I think, blue in my mind, a dark blue.
Was it kind of a navy blue?
Yeah, and I said, no, it's never been found. And then when I heard Detective Lang say that Skip Junis saw that, honestly, I was like right now getting chills because no one ever found that bag. And you are the most important witness seeing him take things out and put it into a garbage can. And,
Yeah.
Well, as far as I know, somewhere between that trash can and getting on the airplane, I think that's where the bag disappeared.
Sure. Look, it's common sense. There's logic that should be applied here. Sometimes it wasn't in this case, which is so frustrating. By the way, it's unbelievable that we have Kato right here next to me. We have Skip Junis here. We're going to go through the timeline for as best as these two gentlemen can remember it coming up a little bit later in this episode. So we're going to walk you through that to refresh everything as far as when OJ left Rockingham, where Kato was, and ended up at LAX. But Skip, let me go back to that moment at the airport. Everybody, can figure out if someone's taking something heavier out of a bag and dumping it in, or if it's some Big Mac wrappers or something like that. That's a different motion. Did it feel like these were bigger objects? And was he looking around as he was doing this, if you can recall?
Yeah, he was looking around, but he only unzipped the bag just enough to get his hand in it. So there was no big objects, but I did see a couple white objects come out. And I mean, if you speculate, those could have been a towel or something wrapped around a knife or they could be bloody clothes. They were not big objects. They were flexible that he could pull out through the small opening that he had when he had unzipped the bag.
Boy, that next morning, though, when you heard about the murders, did alarm bells go off in your head? You're going, uh-oh. I mean, this is very, very bizarre. I know you didn't do anything right away, or were you so busy? Because I know at the time, let's tell everybody what Skip was doing. He was a very busy ad exec, selling advertisements for People magazine. What a glamorous job that must have been with all the perks. You can tell me about that later. But, wow. I mean, did you almost feel like, am I in the middle of something that could get really big, really creepy, really mysterious, and really bizarre?
Yeah, well, I mean, at first you go, oh my God, I saw the guy and he left, and then his wife gets killed. That's really a shame. It was only, a couple weeks later, as they progressed and news started talking about that, he may be a suspect in this. And at that time, I started talking that's when I called prosecution the defense. But I also talked to friends. My wife had a lot of friends at American Airlines that would come over to the house all the time. And we would sit and talk, and, they'd ask me about it and I'd tell them. And I think that's eventually how uh, Detective Lang and Van Adder found me, is I think that they were interviewing other people at the airport, and they said, oh, you should talk to Doris Junas's husband, Skip. He saw OJ out in front, because I had called prosecution the defense twice. And both times I had said, hey, I was out in front when he checked in, and I ran into Detective Lang at this last thing that we were doing, and I asked him the question why I had never been called as a witness, and he gave me the answer to that. But I asked him, why did you get? He asked me, why did I never call? And I said, I did. I called twice, and he never got the message.
What was the answer that the reason why they didn't call you? You said Detective Lang. Tell the audience, what was the reason they didn't call you as a witness?
He never got the message from the prosecution, my name, and they should come talk to me.
Yeah. And you know what, Kato, we've heard it through a lot of episodes on this show. There's an underlying theme or something that ties this all together. It's Marcia Clark. We're going to get to that in a second. Seems like a perfect witness falling from the heavens in a prosecution of a double murder. What was your first reaction to Marcia when, I don't know if you saw her face to face?
Oh, yeah,
did you ever talk to her on the phone? Did you think that, hey, this is a woman in command that's going to handle this case very well?
I came home from work one day, and there was Detective Van Adder's business card was in my front door. And I had a neighbor come down and ask if we were all right. And I said, why? He says, because there were police officers all over your house. And I called the next morning. They came and picked me up at my office, took me down to the airport under siren. We sat there, we measured distances and angles, and I showed them where it was. We talked all that. They called Marcia Clark, and she said, bring him downtown now. So I went by siren down to the prosecution's office, and they had a break in the trial, and they came in and talked to me. I told them what I saw. She asked me even to draw a picture of the missing bag, which I did.
Wow.
And she said, I'm going to show this to the skycap and the limo driver when they're on the witness stand. She said, I'm going to save you. You'll be kind of a surprise witness. And I have to do DNA evidence first. And I think she got sidetracked. But the one thing that was really interesting, and I've heard this from another person, she told me that I was going to be a secret witness. She was not going to tell anybody. And by all means, I was not to talk to the media. And I left. They took me by police car back to my office, and I drove home. Took me, by the time I got out of the office and got home, it was about 2 hours. When I drove up to my street, it was covered with news trucks.
Welcome to your new reality, as Kato well knows. Kato, we've had Tom Lang on the show. Go back and watch the episode with him from about 3 weeks ago. Kato, you know all about the missing evidence, the evidence never seen. You and Tom were in a documentary, and so was Skip on this. And man, Tom Lang talked a lot about Skip. Yeah. Don't you recall that? I mean, he was really upset that Skip could never testify. And I bet you two could compare notes on that bag too, right? On the bag, I bet you could describe it as well as he could.
Yeah, it's amazing, Skip. Just this hearing, your voice and seeing you, and I'm thinking, I'm sure Thomas is going, this is the most credible person I've ever met. This is like the surprise, the genius witness that's going to solve everything. Anyways, it happened the way it happened. You never got called. I think it's a shame. And I just was wondering, Tom, when you talked to the defense, and then they know they didn't use it, was it sort of they were like, whew, we just ditched a bullet there of them not getting Skip. Was their reaction to you different than the prosecution? I know neither one called, but did the defense like?
Well, the defense, when I talked to them, they said, "Oh, we got plenty of people that saw him at the airport, and they didn't even want to take my name." The prosecution, it supposedly took my name and what have you. But what was when I met with Detective Lang just recently, a few months ago, I asked him. I said, "Why was I never called?" And he said that Marcia Clark told him that she could not verify my story.
Well, here's the question. How hard did she try? Because I can imagine the defense wanted nothing to do with you. Because if you're not telling the truth and you get on that stand, you get exposed. Kato went through hell going on stand, told the truth. Not an easy process to go through. But if you're lying or you're making it up on the fly, they're going to get you. You would be so credible because you have nothing to gain by this. You didn't want your life turned upside down, but you saw what you saw. You would have described it perfectly. Marcia Clark says she couldn't verify that you were a credible witness. How hard did she try to prove that?
Well, what doesn't hold water with that is the fact that Detective Lang said he had numerous arguments with Marcia Clark over why I was not called to the stand. But as far as verification was, first off, I drew a picture of the missing bag, and she showed it to the skycap and the limo driver, and they verified the fact that that was the shape of the bag and the color of it that was missing.
Wow.
So, and that had not ever been in the news at that point. Secondly, they interviewed, I don't know how many people at American Airlines, and a number of those people were telling them, "Oh, you should talk to Doris Jones's husband because he saw him out there." So she had plenty of ways to verify the fact that I was there and I saw a bag, and
Yeah.
and I was a middle-aged business executive. I had nothing to gain by coming forward. It wasn't like I was racing there the moment I heard it, with some crazy story.
Well, it's 30 years ago, Skip, and you go to the airport a lot in between this time. So what is security like back then? Aren't there cameras? I mean, it's Circus. They got a camera and everybody playing blackjack, and that's Circus. So did LAX? I would imagine 30 years ago they had cameras everywhere.
There is footage. I haven't seen all the footage they pulled, but I had seen some footage of OJ. It didn't show him at the trash can, but it showed him getting out of the limo and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there was plenty of ways that she could have verified that my story was, at least I had firsthand witness.
Well, and plus your wife was an employee of American.
Yeah.
So everybody's story could be proven out. Like you were there to pick her up. You could get her time schedule. You knew exactly when she was working, etc. Remind everybody once again how long it was that you actually called the prosecution or the defense when you first made the phone calls to them to tell them what you saw.
I think I called them immediately when the first news came out, when they said they might be looking at OJ as a possible suspect. And at that point I said, well, to be a suspect, there would be a timeline from the time that the murders were and when he took off out of LAX. And that seemed to be a fairly short window. And that's why I called both of them to tell them I could verify almost to the minute when he drove up to the front of the terminal.
Tom Lang wishes he got his hands on this story a lot sooner because there was no way to go through the landfills at this point when it finally trickled down to the detectives on the case. Where are you going to go? I mean, can you pinpoint where that one trash can goes to? Maybe you get one of two big landfills, but these things are huge. It would be impossible.
Yeah, that was the problems. They couldn't track even in the geography where it might have gone.
And also, you could have thrown it in garbage cans inside. Also, item
Spread
on
it
the
around.
outside, spread it around.
Yeah,
I'm almost positive that's exactly what he did, Kato.
Yeah,
Because he took a few things out of the bag and put it in there, and then he kept that bag and he went in the terminal. So I would imagine that he stopped other places, and also, from what I understand, I think he ditched the bag someplace between there and the gate.
Yep. Good.
And somebody said I don't I haven't verified it, but he even changed clothes between the time that I saw him and when he actually got on the airplane.
Well, his mind was probably spinning ever since he left the crime scene, trying to figure out his next moves. And he had time to go back to Rockingham, take a shower, get the limo, get over. So he was able, I'm sure, to grab a towel or some other things to wrap this stuff in and try to get that evidence out of there. You know, it's the LAPD's job to probably track down every lead. You called the prosecution, you called the defense. Do you ever wish you called 911? Maybe then there would be a recording of that, and then they would have had to track it down?
No, I guess thinking back, I think I should have called the police in addition to the prosecution.
Right, and that's easy to say now. I mean, you can second guess everything.
You would assume that in a big case like this, or the celebrityness of it, that they would let everybody know. But
right,
it doesn't seem to.
Kato, I just find it so strange how when these things are almost like gifts handed to the prosecution, it's like they don't treat it that way. Did you ever feel that too? I mean, when you were in the middle of all this, it was just like, well, here's one thing that can really help you. Why would you not have Skip testify? Why wouldn't you have Jill Shively testify, even if she took $5,000 from hard copy? Did you ever feel, Kato, as you were watching this unfold, that they're going to screw this up?
I think basically I thought the jury I think the jury was, in my opinion, was pretty much on OJ's side. So that part I do. But I also think, like Skip, you start thinking about things like, I remember telling detectives when they came to my room, this might not mean anything, but my picture moved. And the picture, I have a wall in the room and there's no windows, but the picture moved and I thought there was an earthquake. So immediately they checked behind the bedroom wall is where they found the bloody glove. So I think it's the little things that you think in life that just don't matter. They matter the most, and you find the biggest clues. And the bag, like what Skip said, still today, and I'm sure, Skip, it's haunting you. I always wondered about where was that, why he never wanted me to touch that bag, and you see the bag and no one's ever found it. And then they had shows. I would watch these shows that they would do, like the Hard Copies Current Affair, throughout that time, and they would show Robert Kardashian walking off a Louis Vuitton, but a suit coat over the shoulder. And I'm going, no, that's not it. That's not it. So they always, the media always had the wrong kind of story. It's like, no, it was like a knapsack sport bag that college kids would have. So
back in those days, that kind of gym bag cost like $3.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a cheap gym bag that, anybody that went to the gym to play basketball or, I carried my cleats and my glove in it and stuff when I went to the ball field. That's what it has. But, you brought up another point about his mindset. One of the things I also noticed that, because I knew OJ, I mean, I had met him before. He kind of has a sleepy look to him, with his eyes. But in this case, he looked like he was, I want to say, it doesn't look like he just woke up, but he may have been on something.
I'll tell you, I travel a lot, Skip, and people do approach me, and they're kind, and if someone actually wants a selfie or whatever, but I get to imagine that time. I don't know how the red eye flight, how crowded it is, but people approach celebrity all the time, like, hey, that's OJ or whatever. So I wonder if anybody was at the airport after that, getting a photo or saying, hey, shaking hands or something, because when you're walking to the airport, you're approachable. So I don't know if anybody actually approached OJ, but I assume people said, there's OJ Simpson, and everybody would relate the, hey, OJ, don't run, the Hertz commercial. Yeah. But, people would approach someone that's approachable. And
well, I think to your point, I think maybe that's how they discovered that he may have changed clothes.
There you go.
The time at the airport, because maybe they had pictures of him in two different outfits at the airport before he left.
Yeah. Could you imagine if this happened now? There'd be 50 camera angles on every move from the time the limo got off Century Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
And then pulls up to Terminal 4 or 5, whatever it was, the door. We'd have it all. High def. All of it. All evidence. The other thing about...
And would it have mattered, though? You never know.
Right. Would it ultimately have mattered?
Well, I agree with Kato. I think the jury composition was that they were never going to convict him no matter what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a series of good fortune for O.J. Simpson. Skip, you said something I wanted to follow up on. You talked about just his demeanor that night, and you had known him. And I knew OJ. Kato obviously knew OJ. He was beat up after his football career, so he's not real fast. He's got that lumbering gait kind of. But that's normal. That's how he normally walks. He was probably in a panic, adrenaline, like crazy. You're trying to block out everything around him. Was he moving a little quicker than you may have thought? I mean, you said
No,
you could tell from you thought he might have been on a
He
substance.
was moving slower, and he looked like he was in a daze. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
You know, the the length of the drive from his house to the airport, it's not long enough for you to get into a deep nap and where you just woke up.
Right.
So he looked like he was a little bit out of it.
Yeah. And the traffic's much lighter at that hour.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Let me paint a little picture of LAX for everybody. I know a lot of people watching this have been there. So, I mean, in a limo, you could pull right up to the curb. You can get right out and go right in. The doors are right there. Then there's a garbage can right inside those doors. Were you were standing inside, just to refresh
The garbage can
was
is
outside.
The garbage can was outside.
He's
Okay.
in the car. Yeah.
Wow.
I was in my car.
By the sky cabs, outside sky cabs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm actually shocked even in 1994 there weren't cameras there, you know?
Well, there were, but not,
No.
cameras now. You have a lot more cameras, and you also have people with cell phones
Yeah.
now, which they didn't back then, which I still don't have.
Skip, you'll appreciate this. Kato might think I'm crazy like my wife does. I love Columbo. I love watching old Columbo episodes. That's my release at night. I love the show.
Great.
I love the show.
That's all we do is I know every episode.
I love Columbo. And I was watching an episode last week, and it had to do with LAX and a murder and someone trying to get away and a body switch. And Columbo goes into the control center at LAX, and he was able to see this. Now, the remake of Columbo was probably in the early 90s. So and you could go in there, they maybe had it recreated, but there was Columbo solved it by finding all the cameras. But gosh, back then, I guess if he was sticking his hand into the garbage can as he was emptying stuff out and pushing it down, you'd never see that. And if there was no suspicion, like if the cops weren't informed, if Lang and Van Anner and company weren't informed, there would be no reason to go there and see if they could get inside that garbage can right away. So he pulled it off. If you think about it, open the bag just a little bit, reach his hand in and just jam it down in there so nobody sees except for you.
And just remember, back then there was no TSA, right? So there was no security checks. You got your ticket, went up the escalator, and walked to the gate.
A point, Tom, you bring up, and Skip, throwing something away and assuming that it was the murder weapon and clothes, or bloody clothes, possibly. How does he know it's picked up that night? How does he know it's picked up on Monday, or that it's not still in there? So in his mind, if that's what's going on, he's still freaking out. Like, that's in the garbage. And if someone finds out about these murders at where he was and his last moments of where he was, is checking the garbage cans if they would do that. But I'm sure it was picked up Monday morning maybe, and they do pickups. And like you said, I think, in my opinion, he spread it out through a few different garbage cans.
Pick up garbage cans multiple times during the day.
Yeah.
You have so many passengers going through there. So.
I mean, that's a calculated risk he had to take, right? He had very few options of where to dump he's not going to take that to Chicago, right? He's got to get rid of those clothes, the evidence, and he's got to get rid of that knife. And where else could it have gone? I mean, from point A to point B, from Rockingham to the airport, he's not going to chuck it out the window.
And when they're emptying, when the garbage is picked up by the custodians, it's clear. And you pick up the bag, it's clear. And if you see blood or something, I mean, you're going to go, wait a minute, there's blood or there's a knife or whatever. But a custodian would see that because it's a clear garbage bag.
Well, think about.
I don't want to disagree with you, Kato, but back then the garbage cans or the liners, the plastic liners, were like a gray or a black.
Oh.
And think about it. Those guys empty garbage cans all day. They're not giving anyone any particular thought. They're just tying it up and getting it out of there and moving on to the next one. It is mind-boggling to think that he got away with it. Did you have any communication with anybody else in the prosecution office, Garcetti, Darden, anybody else that thought, hey, maybe Skip, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put him on the stand? Or was Marcia calling it, and once it didn't happen or fell through the cracks?
I met with both Marcia and Darden when I was in the office and being interviewed by them and then drawing the picture. And they asked me to tell my story several times. And that's when the police came out, they took me down there to, verify exactly where I was, how far away I was from the garbage can. And, I'm an ex-pitcher, so I judge everything by 60 feet. That's what
You know,
the rubber to the plate. And so I could tell that I was probably not more than 30 feet
Mhm.
from the garbage can.
well, and also, Skip, earlier you had said that Marcia Clark's going to make you a possible surprise witness. So she's really intrigued, and she likes you because she's going to make you this. Boy, wait till we get this guy on stand. So something happened, like you said, the DNA, but something happened for her not to still use you because at one point she was really high on using you.
And she made it. She had a problem with a witness, and I think that was what Jill Shively, uh, in seeing OJ's car almost hit her close to the murder scene,
Yeah.
and supposedly she may have tried to sell her story to a media outlet, which Marcia didn't like, and that's why she was never called to the witness
Right.
stand.
Way to tease a past episode, Skip. That was great.
Yeah, we had Jill on.
People could go back and watch Jill. We had her on
Yeah.
2 or 3
Yeah.
weeks ago, and you're right. And another one that could have really, connected some dots.
Very credible also.
Yeah. So
But
look,
Jill, I talked to Jill, and she had a very similar story. The fact that initially Marcia said, "Okay, yeah, you're going to be, one of our key witnesses," and she had the same thing. By the time she got back to her house was covered with news trucks. And when you talk about 30 years and thinking about it, I almost wonder who was leaking that kind of information to get the news out there that quick to talk about it. Was that some way to try to get more uh, awareness to possible witnesses, and was it being used by the prosecution that way?
anything's possible. We got the bookends of the timeline right here. Skip in Seattle, Kato right here in Beverly Hills in the studio. Kato, the timeline really for that evening, I think, for the dramatic elements of it starts with the McDonald's trip, right? When you guys
Right.
get back from McDonald's, and then OJ's already acting a little goofy on that, trying to get you to, like you're a cashier, trying to get you to break a $100 bill. Kato, do you remember what time was that when you guys got back from McDonald's?
I don't know the exact time, but I do know it's close to the 9 o'clock hour. But the thing that I'm so glad is that I made phone calls, and the phone records were all there of me talking to certain friends. And so I know when you probably know this, Skip. At one point at the McDonald's, I thought I was going to eat my food in the kitchen with OJ, and I walked to the kitchen area after the McDonald's drive. And I looked, and he was still at the standing at the foot of his car, right there at the door. So, like you being a pitcher, I was about 20 feet. He was 20 feet away, and I was right at the door. And I said, "Oh, he doesn't want me to eat in the house with him." So I went to the guest house, and that's the last of seeing him in that timeline. So then I made all the calls to buddies of mine that I just, hey, I just had dinner with OJ. I was, at the time, being this guy from Milwaukee, calling my buddies, I just had dinner with OJ, went to McDonald's. And by the way, and I don't even need a McDonald's. It's just that he drove to a McDonald's. He had no idea, and that became the drive to McDonald's. So that was the timeline of all the calls that I made that he was gone.
Sure, at least to prove that you were back at the
Did you
house.
see the bag at that time?
No,
The missing bag?
no, the missing bag came when, in the timeline, when I kept hearing some kind of ringing, and I'm going, boy, is that? And it was a constant. So it was the phone or the gate. There must be a phone that's ringing the gate, and that's the limo driver. But it went on for 10 or so minutes, and I said, so I went to investigate. So I was there, and I asked the limo driver, did we have an earthquake? Because the picture frame of my room moved, and I let him in. And then OJ was outside, and the door of all the luggage was there. And that's where I saw him, and I was going to I helped load the luggage in with the limo driver, and that's when I ran to get the other bag, and he said, no, I got it, and that was it. So that was the timeline. Alan, we're going to have Alan Park next week. He'll have the timeline also, probably to match up with you, me, and himself.
Yeah. Wow. The timeline, she I can walk you through a little bit of it here. Where I'll start with the call for the sunglasses, and then Rod Goldman goes and brings the glasses back, and man, it's unbelievable. All this stuff that happens is just a short little window. Back to the media here for a second here, Skip. You said that they were surrounding your house. They were on to you, no question about it. Word travels fast. Did you talk to anybody? Did you go out of your way not to talk to anybody? You say no comment, I want nothing to do with you. I mean, you're a friendly guy. You worked in the media. You worked in the advertising agency. These people, maybe somebody that you knew their colleagues or you knew them. So what was your relationship with those reporters and everybody hounding you?
Well, I like to think I'm an upstanding guy, and Marcia gave me direct orders not to talk to the media. So when I turned on my street and saw all the news trucks, I drove around the block and I climbed over the fence of my neighbor's house in my suit to get into the house so I wouldn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And you remember the old fax machines that had the roll of paper?
Yeah.
Like that. In my home office, the entire roll of paper was on the floor, and it was nothing but interview offers from about every media you could possibly. How in the world could they all have gotten my name and my fax number in less than 2 hours?
Skip, I still have that same fax machine. Thanks for making me feel really bad.
Oh, so you're no longer using Telegraph?
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, these calls come in. It's insanity of how fast, how the media just picks up immediately because they know.
Well, I waited all night, and the trucks left eventually. So the next morning, I walked out my gate. I was going to walk around the corner to get my car, and there was some reporters that had camped out in an unmarked car.
Yeah.
And so they came up and grabbed me and wanted to talk, and I just basically brushed them off.
Yeah, how could you possibly punch holes in your story if you're the defense and you're on stand? I just don't understand how you could possibly. If you were on the stand, I just don't know how they would have been able to do anything that wouldn't make the jury, if they cared, believe that you saw O.J. Simpson do this. I mean, you wouldn't have buckled, yet you were telling the truth. You would have told the truth. How frustrating was it for you watching the trial, thinking, I could be part of this? Or were you saying, thank God I'm not?
I kept waiting to be part of the trial because she said she was going to call me. I had my subpoena and everything. And that never happened. So that got to be frustrating for sure. But the most frustrating part is thinking all these years, exactly what could he have been throwing out of that bag?
Yeah.
Because that behavior was so unlike anything I had ever witnessed in any of our travels around the world.
Yeah, it's speculative. I think that's how the defense would argue, Tom. They go, so Skip, being a defense attorney, going, so you're an expert on people throwing stuff out of a bag in garbage, so you know this? And then they try to make you shake on the stand and make you not credible, which I think would be impossible to make you not credible. But it was your opinion of him going in the bag, and that bag became so important later that they should have. The prosecution should have brought you up even towards the end, just like part of their closing argument of having.
And Kato, here's how I
never saw that bag either.
Okay, so if you're the defense, and I'm the prosecution, I'd follow it up with, Skip, how many flights have you taken in your life? How many times have you been to LAX? Oh, you actually know O.J. Simpson? You've seen him before? How well do you know the garbage can out here? How well are you sure about your timeline? Is your wife credible? I think that. It would have been a great debate if they could have handled it.
And you put him with myself going up, then Skip, then Alan Park, and you just have the entire picture of that timeline. So I just think it's very important. I think everything's hindsight, of course. We know what happened, but these are just incredible stories of the connection.
They wanted to try to pick apart, the observation that I had. It's one thing to just throw trash away. It's another thing to take a bag and open it up just to get your hand in, which means you're just grabbing anything and throwing it away. You're not looking for a specific thing to throw away. You're just pulling stuff out of this bag. And not many people do that kind of thing when they're getting ready to go on a trip.
Yeah, one man's trash is a conviction. Isn't that the saying?
Yeah. How many flights have you taken in your life? Because you used to travel a lot, right? Are we talking hundreds, thousands? You've probably been on thousands of flights, probably, right?
Well, I wouldn't say 1,000, but certainly I traveled a lot for business. And in the airline industry in that time, there was no such thing as upgrades. So the only people that ever flew were first class, were paying customers and airline employees. So my wife and I, it didn't cost us to fly. So anytime we had 3 days off or a week off, we were gone. We'd go to Scandinavian countries, we'd go to Hawaii if we had 3 days. So we made a lot of flights.
So you said earlier that had your wife not left a few minutes early, she would have checked in OJ. The person that did check in OJ, did she also get contacted? Because
I don't know that.
Because at that time, didn't everybody have to go to the check in? I don't remember back 30 years ago if you had to go to the front desk or if you just go to the gate if you had your ticket. But you have to make contact. 30 years ago, you do have to make contact with someone.
Well, in the past, you usually had to go to the ticket.
Could be Marcia.
Now Marcia calls.
wants you on the stand.
Jesus, Skip.
We're sending a helicopter and a plane. We're gonna.
Sorry about that.
How soon can you come to downtown LA? She's watching. She's got a feed of this.
Right.
I mean, maybe I should have used Skip.
Call me to the witness stand. Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's okay.
All right.
No, but I was saying back then you had to go to the ticket counter to check in.
Yeah.
And you just didn't have any security to go through for your bags and anything at that point. Once you went to the checkout, the ticket counter, you went straight to the gate and boarded the plane.
And plus, he's being treated as a celebrity at that time of whatever. Sir, yes, of course.
Well, that was part of my wife's job at the ticket counter. She handled all the celebrities. When they came in, she would take care of making sure they got checked in properly and even escort them to the gate if necessary.
Now it's the defense.
Jesus,
any of them alive?
Yeah.
That's
Give me
funny.
a witness protection, please.
Yeah, Skip just got called into the big show. You made it to the majors.
Hey, Skip, you knew OJ. You said you knew him, right? You play baseball. Not that your paths will cross in sports or anything, but was there any part of you that night that thought, "Hey, Juice, what's up? Where are you heading?" Did you know him that where you could have had a conversation?
I had met him a couple times, not to the point going, "Hey, how are you, OJ?" Athletics we had some things that we crossed paths there. And my job, I worked on some movie studio sets and stuff. And so I'd run across him a couple places like that.
Did you leave LA? I know you live in Seattle. You retired early, no kids, retired at what, age of 47? So you've had a good life. Did you leave LA partially just to get away from this?
Not to get away from necessarily the trial. I just wanted to get away from California, basically. I was in the magazine business, so I was privy to a lot of demographic research and everything. And I kind of knew what's happening to California now was probably going to happen. And so I wanted to get a simpler life.
Mission accomplished? You liking it out there?
Mission accomplished, yeah. We sold our house and we live on an acre surrounded by trees and water everywhere. And it's idyllic. I
was just Googling. I know you said your wife, Doris, I believe her name is Doris, and you have been married 54 years, and Tom's got his computer here. The 54-year anniversary is linoleum. I'm kidding. I kid.
Well, we do have 2 bathrooms and a utility porch. Maybe I'll go ahead and
happy anniversary.
Hey, Skip, you should be asking Kato what the second anniversary gift is, because that's what this man's facing. It's about 2 years, isn't it? Exactly.
I hope it's paper. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, currency, green, get ready.
Yeah.
Hey, Skip, I got to tell you this one quick story about Kato when he got married. So he got married in David Zucker's backyard 2 years ago, May of 2022. Beautiful, beautiful wedding. I thought you retired. Yeah. I mean, why are you getting so many calls?
I had no idea.
Let him know who David is.
Okay, no. So David Zucker, world famous producer, Airplane,
Naked
Gun. Just back in the day when you could do real comedies, it was so funny. Very, very talented, from Milwaukee, from Wisconsin, just like Kato. So they were friends. So Mr. David Zucker just opened up his backyard for Kato to have the wedding. It was a beautiful ceremony at night. It was awesome. And Kato gets up to deliver some words, to thank everybody. It was pure Kato, thanking everybody, pure energy. Sheng Yi was right there. We were there. All his friends and close friends were there. And then he turns to David Zucker to thank him. And David, thank you so much. What a beautiful setting for this wedding. Thank you. It was just perfect. Oh, and by the way, David, thanks for not inviting Nordberg.
The ring came right over the punchline.
Yeah. Hey, Skip, there's a little cord you can unhook from the back of that phone. Is this normal for you to get this many calls in a short period of time? I don't think my phone rings this much.
Many calls in 3 weeks.
No, I get a lot of calls. I don't even think my phone rings that much. That's actually funny. For a guy that, shies away from technology, it's out to get you today.
It's a landline. It's not a cell phone.
Did you hear the punchline? That's what's important.
Did you hear what this
Come on.
Okay.
Someone needs to get a hold of you.
Yeah,
Answer it.
It might be important, actually. Yeah.
Go ahead if you need to. I don't want to cause any
There's
problems
nothing
here.
more important than this.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me get to
The
one
house
quick
on
question.
fire.
Let me get one more serious question here. And answer this truthfully. Did Marcia Clark screw this up, in your opinion?
Yes. No doubt.
You were sitting there on a silver platter, and she chose not to use you with really no explanation other than we didn't get around to it.
Yeah.
Do you feel she blew the case?
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you the thing that was the most incredible thing that they should have never done is having him try on the glove. You have a leather glove that's soaked in blood, and it shrinks, and then in court you ask him to try the glove on wearing latex gloves. And if you ever watch the film, he was spreading his fingers out trying to put the glove on. That's like a good lawyer. Don't ever ask a question that you don't know what the answer is going to be.
Exactly.
That was
And,
OJ's best acting job ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turning to everybody, I can't believe this. His fingers were spread so wide.
Well-
How could somebody not have stopped them from that idea? It is so brainless. It is. Plus, that those gloves were sitting in evidence. They probably shrunk up as well.
Well,
Oh, yeah. They did.
yeah. Also, another point that was brought up that he stopped taking arthritis medicine. They said, and that made his fingers swell. So there was all these things, supposedly that was another reason is you don't try something on. And you know what, Tom? I never knew any of this, Skip, until Tom Lang, almost 30 years later, that you were a part, that someone had saw this, and that was this person, you who I'm talking to now. And I honestly, and I think the viewers are going to be just blown away that seeing you, how credible you are, that no one knew Skip Junis, and how your story is just so compelling.
Well, during that time, there was, I forget which TV station it was, but every night they had this thing, whatever was on the trial, and they would have two graphics and they would collide, and there would be a ta-ta. And I was known as the trash can witness during that period of time. So the media knew and was talking about it, but for some reason she decided not to put me on the stand.
Yeah. We're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. Go back and watch the episode with Tom Lang because he references Skip, and then of course Jill Shively, another great witness that never was, courtesy of Marcia Clark. But those are great episodes. Last thing from me, did this change your life? Was there a fork in the road at this point because you saw this, even though you didn't testify? Did it change your life?
No. I mean, it was. I feel that he was guilty. I wish there would have been something, better done to try to come to a just decision on that thing.
Yeah.
It's changed my life a little bit. This is my first ever podcast. I did some TV interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know my name is in a number of books on that. So,
Well, it's an honor to have you. Really appreciate it.
And I'm going to end it with a non-OJ, trying to shift gears here. I don't know if you know it. I'm from Wisconsin, at Wisconsin Eau Claire, second biggest university. I was a varsity pitcher. Then I transferred to Cal State Fullerton. At that time, it was Augie Garrido, I'm sure you know, was the coach. And everybody that would go on that Fullerton team Cal State would basically become a pro. Well, I didn't make it. How close were you to becoming a pro? My fastest pitch was 89 miles an hour, but I had a knuckle curve back then, back with the better than Phil Necros. I'm not kidding you. No one could hit it. And then I played a semi-pro back in 29 years old, 30.
Nice.
How about you?
all the guys that I played with made it to the big leagues.
Wow.
And according to some scouting reports, I would have had a chance. The only interesting thing about that is that I hurt my arm at UCLA, and I would have been the test case for the Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, took longer to recover from that. No truth to the rumor that Marcia Clark was part of those major league organizations, and there just wasn't enough evidence for you. You weren't compelling enough to really make a major league roster. We had to say no to Skip Junis yet again.
She couldn't verify my fastball.
Yeah, I lost my radar gun. I couldn't find it.
And I'll end it with I'm a friend of Tommy John's, so I will let him know that story. I really am. I've done a bunch of charities with Tommy.
Why wouldn't you be?
Yep,
of course you are.
Dr. Curlin and Dr. Job at Sentinel Hospital, the ones that did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, they asked me to do it because I had signed with the Giants.
Wow.
And they wanted me to do it. And I said, no, I wanted to rehab because I was young and I didn't want to have there was some real negatives if the surgery didn't go well.
Well,
Right.
now you could say you have something in common with Shohei Ohtani.
And Smithsonian
He's had it twice.
the Smithsonian just got Tommy John's cast, the original cast he had, signed by everybody.
Wow.
So
Is that right?
That's all part of history now.
Okay, before you go, thank you. Keep up the good work for St. Jude. I know you do a lot of great things with that hospital in Memphis. What a great organization that is. I revealed that I love Columbo. People think I'm weird for that. I don't care. I love Columbo.
I love Columbo.
I love it. I wish the episodes were a little shorter. 90 minutes is a little too much. I wish Columbo was 60, but that's a side story. The other favorite show of mine from back in the day was Elf, Alien Life Form. Hey, Willie, I love that show. And Skip told me he has one of the very few talking elf dolls. Can he say something to us?
Sometimes he does. I'm a people alien.
Let's go check out the fridge.
You know what? I could have done a better voiceover for that toy.
Yeah.
I can hit that Elf impersonation pretty good. No, I love Elf. I have one with my old college football uniform. One of my friends back in the day gave it to me. Not a guy friend, but
All right.
Well,
anyway.
I was working for Telepictures that produced the
Right.
show.
All right.
Well, I know a bunch of telepicture people. You know, Skip, we're gonna head out and thank you for doing the show. And now you have time to answer those calls.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the phone calls, guys.
Are you kidding? That's what made it more fun.
Technology.
Hey, we want you to have a lasting story for your first podcast ever. And there you go. But hey, let us truly thank you. I know this was short notice. You are an amazing guest. And it was an awesome journey that you took us on, revealing some of the things that you saw that were so clear in your mind back then and still are today. So thank you.
Yeah,
I
incredible
appreciate it.
story. Thank you, Skip.
Okay.
Have a good day, guys.
Yep. Okay, Kato. So next week, Alan Park joining us in studio. So brace yourselves, everybody, for that. And then Kato.
Say hello to Alan for me.
Okay, we will. We will. Next
you.
week, I'm going to collect my thoughts because I just got back from the Tom Brady roast 2 nights ago. So I will share some stories of the Tom Brady roast and the after party and everything that went on. It was amazing.
And you have to talk about Jeff Ross coming out.
Oh, I will. Oh, no, we're going to try to get...
How you saw him come on, wearing the jersey.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll talk about
Jeff
that.
Ross came on wearing an O.J. Simpson jersey. By the way, I've been roasting my wife for the last couple of days, writing one-liners. I think I could roast. It's been fun.
Oh, I love that.
She's
I
got
can't wait
nothing
hear
to come back at either. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks for Skip Junis joining us today. Alan Park, the limo driver, is going to be in studio with us next week. Make sure you share this show. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends about it. And go back and watch some past episodes because we'll keep them coming. And follow Kato on social media and myself. We'll have clips throughout the week and keep you informed of what's coming up next. Thanks for watching. We'll be back. For Kato Kalin, I'm Tom Zenner. We'll see you next week. Hey, if you like that firsthand account of the OJ saga, make sure you click here for the story of how OJ got busted in Vegas, or click here to hear from the woman who almost got run over by OJ leaving the crime scene.